Namaha. Wait a second. Okay. Yeah. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the all-auspicious Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa again and again, because the great learned sages, the great performers of charity, the great workers of distinction, the great philosophers and mystics, the great chanters of Vedic hymns, and the great followers of Vedic principles cannot achieve any fruitive result without dedication of such great qualities to the service of the Lord. Please repeat. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto.
Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto
the all-auspicious Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa.
The all-auspicious Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa.
Again and again.
Again and again.
Because the great learned sages,
the great learned sages,
the great performers of charity,
the great performers of charity,
the great workers of distinction,
the great workers of distinction,
the great philosophers and mystics,
the great philosophers and mystics,
the great chanters of the Vedic hymns,
the great chanters of the Vedic hymns,
the great followers of Vedic principles,
the great followers of Vedic principles,
cannot achieve any fruitive results.
Cannot achieve any fruitive result.
Without dedication of such great qualities,
without dedication of such great qualities
to the service of the Lord.
To the service of the Lord.
So, Maharaj, only you can be heard now.
Okay, I guess you go ahead here then. So we have, where's my pen there? Okay. So, purport. Advancement of learning, a charitable disposition, political, social, or religious leadership of human society, philosophical speculations, the practice of the yoga system, expertise in the Vedic rituals, and all similar high qualities in man serve one in the attainment of perfection only when they are employed in the service of the Lord. Without such dovetailing, all such qualities become sources of trouble for the people in general. Yeah? And here we have some very, very great workers of distinction, some very powerful people, Napoleon Bonaparte, Alexander the Great, and of course there was also the Roman Empire, and somebody, Butler or somebody, was describing Napoleon, and it said the prizes he sought were jewels and thrones, and the dice he cast were human bones. So they would, when Napoleon returned from exile, he came back and he was walking there with his personal dedicated guard, and there'd be like 400 people. So they sent an army of like 2,000 people out to stop him. And then he got off his horse and walked unarmed up to them and said, "I am your emperor. I've come back. If you want to shoot me now." And there was a few tense moments. And then somebody started screaming, "Vive l'Empereur!" and all 2,000 soldiers, threw their rifles on the ground. And then finally the officer, who had been his officer before, then, I guess, put his saber on the ground and walked down and kneeled before him. Okay, So then they went, and within, I think it was 3 weeks, he had something like 100,000 or 400,000 soldiers and so on. So Napoleon and Alexander, but all these problems, he would march 40,000 people to their death. It was unbelievable. So all these good qualities, and all these people, if you look at them, Napoleon, Alexander, Caesar, Hannibal, all of them were dissatisfied. All of them were dissatisfied. So without dovetailing all these good qualities, a charitable disposition, because they were all charitable people. After Alexander had conquered, these guys coming from the Persians, he conquered he got his wife and daughter And then he told his men something like, if anybody even touches her, they'll die, a death worse than you can imagine. And he protected them very, like a great gentleman, protected them and so on. So in the end, they were more attached to him than they were to their own son, their own husband. So great charitable disposition, great political, social, religious leaders, philosophical speculations, people with incredible abilities like Sir Isaac Newton and other people. Practice of yoga systems, expertise in Vedic rituals, and similar high qualities. Can only be useful if you use them in the service of the Lord. What happened here? Okay, And so here's examples. Okay. Then Prabhupada goes on. Everything can be utilized either for one's own sense gratification or in the service of one other than oneself. Here's the basic principle, that we can think about how to gratify my senses with whatever abilities I have. And we all have different abilities. I'm sure you stop and be just honest, not too artificially humble. We all have different qualities, abilities, and how we can do things. So we can use them for our own sense gratification or for somebody else. But then Prabhupada makes a further distinction. There are two kinds of self-interest, also. Namely personal selfishness and extended selfishness. But there is no qualitative difference between personal and extended selfishness. Theft for personal interest or for the family interest is of the same quality, namely criminal. A thief pleading not guilty because of committing theft not for personal interest but for the interest of society or country has never been excused by the established law of any country. People in general, Prabhupada says, have no knowledge that self-interest of a living being attains perfection only when such interest coincides with the interest of the Lord. So we have a picture of a very, very famous thief, like that, the butter thief, and his accomplices, like that. So, Prabhupada says this stealing principle is a fundamental principle. He said, children like to steal things from other people's houses. He said it's a natural tendency to feel like you have something or some friendship or association, like that. So, but it's natural. So all these tendencies to be a great speculator, to be a very, very aesthetic, intuitive abilities in art, culture, to be a very, very creative liar, all these things, that they can achieve perfection when they coincide with the interests of the Lord. So the Lord's also interested in lying and stealing and sense gratification, And He's also interested in extended sense gratification. Actually, He's the most extended sense gratifier. So it's a very subtle art in how to dovetail all these things with Krishna. Prabhupada goes, for example, what is the interest of maintaining body and soul together? One earns money for maintenance of the body, personal or social. But unless there is God consciousness, unless the body is being properly maintained to realize one's relation with God, all good efforts to maintain body and soul together are similar to the attempts of the animals to maintain body and soul together. So here down below we have the picture of two Peruvians duking it out to see who's going to be the predominator here, the survivor. There's one dog in the audience back there. But that's all what it comes down to. You mentioned before, we heard that the animals in the zoos were very frustrated, angry. They would they would become depressed and wouldn't take any care of their bodies and this and that and die and stuff. So they started this process that every night the bear goes into his little cave, and I guess they lock the door up, and he has a good night's sleep. Then they open the door up in the morning, and the bear comes out, I guess, in a little light and stretches and scratches his back a little bit, And then all over the habitat, they have some place there with like some trees they've put up and rocks and stuff, and people can walk along, the platform and look at the bear or the bears in his habitat. But then they put food. They put food up in the tree. They put food under a rock. And they hide food all over the place. And so the bear has to spend all day trying to figure out, like, okay, they got to get this, way up in the tree there, and how do I get up there, and doing things. And actually, they're quite creative. They'll push things here and there. They'll do different kinds of activities then. And so he spends all day, hunting for food, and then he feels kind of terrible. It was a good day. He feels like it was a productive day. I spent a whole day looking for food. And he doesn't feel frustrated. He feels like he actually is living like a useful life. Okay, then once a year, a little romance. With the Fifi or whoever it is, cinnamon. Something like that. But that's it. That's the animal's limit of intelligence. It's a good day when I can fill my belly and scratch my back a little bit, and lie in the sun, take a good maybe a swim or a bath. Actually, they have some higher sentiments. Actually, animals too. You see that in the natural environment. They actually, even there's some like higher sentiment. And of course, when you're in association with a devotee, when you're in association with people, those can actually manifest quite a bit, depending on how much the soul is awake within that body, that tamasic body. But a human being, once he's satisfied the basic necessities for survival, it's not enough. He has like higher sensibilities, and unless those are satisfied, they cause irritation, they create tension, they create agitation, and so then he tries to eliminate them by smoking, drinking, or something, or smother them, or satisfy him, expanding his nation, expanding his family, expanding his immortality to his, immortality to his dynasty, immortality to his countrymen and his nation, like that, and so on, And maybe those some benefits, you can think about those in the future, or there will be some benefit for you. But for the most part, of course, they're finished with the body. That's the whole thing. And so, whether we're concerned with Krishna's satisfaction or not, in this level, many times, the thing is, well, just think about immortality. At least think about liberation. At least think about lasting benefits. And then we come to those kind of things, and even still we're not satisfied. Tattvam, what's it called? Brahmati, Paramatmati, Bhagavaniti, Sabdate. That's how it starts. Tattvam Yaj Ganamadrayam. Ganati. Anyway, it begins with that. That the sages who actually know the truth know that this non-dual substance actually exists in three categories. Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. You might say this like ice, water, and steam. Steam. Same thing. So Brahman, okay, we realize I'm immortal. We realize that. And different philosophers, scientists, they express this kind of passion that they realize that you and I may die, brother, but the revolution will go on. Or different things. You see, it's Brahman, Sat. There is a reality. Chit. Then we begin to see distinctions. Okay, this may disappear or that may disappear, but Rome is an eternal idea in the mind of the gods. And stuff. The Roman Empire was actually, it's quite amazing. You might even say it was like a manifestation of Krishna in some ways. Krishna says that whatever is great. It extended all the way around the Mediterranean, all the way over to England, half of the way up England, and then all the way over into the Middle East, taking over, what's it called, the higher velocity people, those guys, Armenian empires and stuff like that. We're looking at one thing on the YouTube. It's the history of the Roman architecture. It's very interesting. They had a very sophisticated cement. They were building these unbelievable monuments and roads and aqueducts. The architects are saying that if we had, that we could not, build the things they did in the time they did with the tools they had. We couldn't even do it without some of the most recent, computer developments. Some of the domes they built and everything else like that. And so Rome had like something like about 1 million people. Imagine this, like, maybe to 100, 200 after the birth of Christ or something, a city of 1 million people. And of course an empire with unbelievable things like that, so on. So all of this, there was some religious activity, there was worship of demigods, and there was this idea that, well, things may come and go. We've seen emperors come and go, but Rome, Rome is an eternal idea in mind of God. So some aiming for transcendence, Sat Chit, Not only is it eternal, but it's a city. It has a heart. It has a character, a spirit, like that, and so on. So Sat Chit, we realize that male and female distinctions are eternal. In this world, they may be perverted this way and that way, but somebody in the female body, then they're realizing this idea of motherhood, this idea of being a chaste wife, giving your heart and soul to some boy, even as a devotee, you realize it's external, but these are eternal manifests of eternal relationships. And by playing out this role properly, I can begin to appreciate then who is Radharani, what is this female potency. So then Sat Chit, and finally Ananda, before relationship, with Krishna. So this is the point that if we can dovetail these things properly, we can realize these things. Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, and even if we just realize Brahman, then at least we're more than the animals, because now we've come to a level, beyond the temporary world. Okay, all good efforts to maintain body and soul together are similar to the attempts of the animals to maintain body and soul together. Where's my cursor? Cursor, come back. Oh, something's happening here. There, okay. Yeah. Okay. The purpose of maintaining the human body is different from that of the animals. Yeah. So here you see Lord Balaram maintaining his personal body, beating up his brother's enemy, so on. Okay. Yeah. So we can participate in all these purposes of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending in terms of Krishna. Yeah. Similarly, advancement of learning, economic development, philosophical research, study in the Vedic literature, or even the execution of pious activities, like charity, opening of hospitals, and the distribution of food grains should be done in relation with the Lord. The aim of all such acts and endeavors must be the pleasure of the Lord, and not the satisfaction of any other identity, individual or collective. So very basic ideas. And again, of course, we've heard this even in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, from our point of view, is ABC. It's the beginning, But right there in the very beginning is that, Krishna tells Arjuna these same things, and then in the first canto, there's a sutra to the sages, and the sutra says the same thing. They ask him, what is the essence of Dharma? And he says the same thing, that Dharma is meant to give liberation. Dharma svanusita pumsham vishvaksena kata suya no parayedya diratim shrama eva hi kevalam. And not only is it meant to give liberation, dharmasya hiya pavargasya, but then beyond that, it's meant to inspire an attraction for hearing about Krishna. That's the purpose of doing your varna ashram as a man or a woman, as a kshatriya or a brahmana. Is liberation, not for some gratification in this world, but beyond that, it also can allow you then to come to this paradharma, to hear about Hari, to hear about Adhoksaja, to hear about Achyuta. So in the beginning it's talk in general about he who resides everywhere, he who never falls down, he who's the greatest friend of his devotees. And we'll see in these prayers by Sukadeva Goswami, it doesn't talk about Krishna directly too much. At least liberation, at least a person. Where'd my cursor go? There it is now. Okay. The Bhagavad Gita 9.27, the same principle is confirmed where it is said that whatever we may give in charity, whatever we may observe in austerity, whatever must be given over to must be given over to the Lord, or it be done on His account only. The expert leaders of a godless human civilization cannot bring about a fruitful result in all their different attempts at educational advancement or economic development unless they are God conscious. And so this is the thing, is of course sometimes all these things about educational development, economic development, it's all for a very, what's like obviously exploitive, motive, that people are only doing this because they want something very, very gross out of it. Again, like Rome, during this construction, 30% of the population of Rome was slaves. 30% of the population of Rome was slaves. And they had like 20,000 people, working on these construction projects and so on. But then, what is it? We want these slaves to be educated. They were very qualified people, and architects and sub-architects, contractors, in charge of this kind of thing or that kind of thing, scaffolding. You see, it was a very sophisticated process, and it was being passed down for hundreds of years, actually. As Roman architecture was being passed down for hundreds of years, and the dome of, I forgot what it was, Trajan built one place with a big dome, and it remained the biggest freestanding dome in the world for something like 9 centuries, over 900 years, or even more than that. Nobody came close to this thing, so on. And so, educating these people in economic development, okay, then they should be fed properly, they should have proper clothing, because we've got to understand that, that these people are not going to be motivated to work properly. So we use the word slave, but probably, to have been a slave in the Roman Empire may have been a better job than being like a free, worker in one of these modern big cities. You may have been better taken care of. You may have had better entertainment. You may have better situation for family planning and your children. But being taken care of, like an indentured person. Nowadays, it's even a worse situation. That people are working like slaves and everything else, but they're not really taken care of in that sense. So, but the motivation is still, for our glorification. And the movie and architecture was pretty much making the same point throughout the whole thing, that pretty much every single one of these persons, Trajan, Caesar, Nero, they really wanted to do this to leave their mark, which they did. It was for their ego, for their enjoyment. Not even sometimes. Many times it wasn't even for their enjoyment in their lifetime. Sometimes it was. Nero was an egomaniac beyond belief. Even they finally killed him. But actually he burned down Rome so he could claim it, as it appeared to be. He actually burned down half of Rome, and he claimed 1/3 of it for his own palace, so on. So, but beyond that, many of them actually lived not very riotous lives, but they wanted to be famous in posterity. They wanted to have some long-lasting fame like that. So all this stuff, the expert leaders of a godless civilization, is aiming at some kind of personal or extended, view within a small perspective, but only becomes successful when it's aimed towards Krishna. Prabhupada says, and to become God conscious, one has to hear about the all-auspicious Lord as He is described in literature like the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So Prabhupada says Bhagavad Gita is the culture of the intellect, and the real culture of the soul starts with Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita is basically aimed at liberation. Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tam sarva papebhyo moksha yishnamimasachaha. That's the whole thing. Arjuna is worried about getting simple reactions, and in the end Krishna tells him the conclusion is, surrender to me and I will protect you from all sinful reactions. So you're liberated, and then okay, the problem is solved and everything else. Then real life historically and everything else pretty much begins, after the Battle of Kurukshetra, when things become kind of regulated. And then we can start to see the manifestation of Maharaj Parikshit and the manifestation of real, real spiritual culture. And of course, Srimad Bhagavatam then takes it through, the different Manus, and the different Leela avatars, and Ramchandra, and then finally the 10th canto, then we see Krishna. We're really spoiled because by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we can realize these very subtle relationships with Krishna. If you maybe think back before we came in contact with Lord Chaitanya's movement, what do we know about, spiritual life? Maybe something very... I remember one time I just had this realization that until I met Prabhupada, there was like a very kind of very low-level glow. Like, in the morning time, when the first light comes and you can just see a little bit, Like I said, the snakes and the thieves are starting to disappear. You can walk around without falling, fear. But you can't see much yet. You can't read or anything else like that, So until we came to Prabhupada, all of spiritual relationships were like that. There was some idea of Jesus Christ or the Prophet Muhammad, or things like this, but very, very dull. But then by Lord Chaitanya's mercy, then we see things very clearly. We get a real taste, and then after that we learn how to build, the proper background, proper basis, to make these little experiences, mercy experiences into our standard life, and then have hope at the time of death we can negotiate that experience and come out in a better place, maybe take birth as in the womb of a Braja Gopi, like that, or something. Be a squirrel or a peacock or a little bird or a flower in Vrindavan, and then play with Gopal. So that's the actual Prabhupada's purport in text, and it's pretty simple. Again, we all know it, the basic idea. But of course, again, the action of how to dovetail our particular nature, and everybody's different. And you think, for example, I'll confess, I've always been very attracted to sweets. Okay. Since I was very young, and I always felt embarrassed about it. My God, different things, so on, But then, at some point along the line here, and I know in chanting and praying, and it seemed like it was an essential part of my psychophysical nature to some degree, So finally, then our Ayurvedic doctor, a very credible person from Peru, he was saying no. He said, "You're so mental that you just burn sugar." He said the brain just uses sugar like anything, So I guess I'm not a great worker of distinction. I'm not a great giver of charity, but I'm a great speculator. Boy, can I speculate, Yeah. So, that requires all this mental energy. And so the brain uses sugar, But the thing is how to get it, because if you just chew bread properly, of course the starch is digested by the enzymes in your mouth, and it becomes sugar even in your mouth. So understanding, okay, I need sugar. It's my body. He asked me, he said, after lectures, do you have headaches? And I said, yeah. He said, yeah, because you're burning up, so much sugar and oxygen. So after a class, he said, take some hot milk with some sugar. Okay. So anyway, this first thing, even to figure out our own psychophysical nature, which is going to be general. First off, we can decide if we're a man or a woman. Then after that, we can decide if we're Kshatriya, Brahmana, Vaishya, or Shudra, or Kshatrini, Brahmini, Vaishini, or Shudrani. Okay. And then, there's different things like that, different nature, Probably a lot of the big book distributors and everything else probably says basically they have a real Kshatriya tendency. Their nature is to go out and to fight with people and be brave and suffer attacks, And somebody else may be a real Shudra, okay? So it's not their nature to do that. They feel, hurt, but they may be fantastic artists. So they can do this incredible art, and then the book distributors, all the book distributors I know say that the art is one of the most important things they use in the book distribution, is this, getting out there, showing pictures a lot of times, So in general, we understand our psychophysical nature and how that can be connected to Krishna. How? By the scriptures, there's descriptions, but especially, of course, by an acharya, like Srila Prabhupada. And he trains so many other people how to engage people, what to do. He saw the situation, he decided he wanted to build temples. He didn't decide he wanted to introduce fire sacrifices on a large regular basis at that point. You know? On and on like that. You know, when should Ayurveda be introduced? When should Vastu be introduced? You know? So Prabhupada gives like a general foundation, and we can understand at different times and places different things are useful, and how to dovetail these with Krishna's service. Yeah. And then after that, of course, our psychophysical nature, then of course we start to come to our real, deep feelings, deep feelings. And then maybe Raganuga Bhakti and things like that. So it's a basic point, but it's being repeated again. So any questions at this point? I have a few more things I could talk about here, but maybe we want to go ahead just with questions, comments. Yeah.
Okay.
Maharaj, you were talking about the propensity to lie and cheat and steal. This all comes from Krishna. He's the origin of all that. We know what a rascal he is. And you were saying that these things can be utilized if dovetailed in the service of Krishna. I was wondering if you kind of give a practical example of lying, cheating, and stealing in the service of Krishna.
No, well, of course, Krishna and the cowherd boys, right? I mean, you can be one of Krishna's gang, and of course, the whole thing is to figure out how you can steal the milk and butter from the gopis. It's like a big, delightful game. The gopis are always trying to figure out like how to lock this up, how to hide that, how to put that there, and then Krishna and his friends are probably making up big engineering plans, how to pile this plank up, how to have somebody jump on this board and pop Duddy Mukha over the wall like that.
I'm talking about in this world. In this world, in this lifetime, yeah, because the purport today is dealing all about dovetailing and utilizing and doing everything at karoshi, at asnasi, at jtahosa didasya. But how do we lie, steal, and cheat in Krishna?
Well, usually we don't. That's the point. Yeah, well, it's possible. Actually. What we do, for example, if we have artistic abilities and we make very, very beautiful paintings for Krishna, if we have good business sense, we can say that's not going to work, this and that. So we can use all these, kind of like positive qualities in Krishna's service. But the lying, cheating, and stealing, specifically Prabhupada said, if Krishna is standing next to you like he was with Arjuna, okay, then you can go ahead and lie, cheat, and steal. But otherwise, we follow standard behavior for the most part. He told Hansadutta, he's probably said these kind of things are for the big acharyas. Famous letter to Hansadutta, he said, you can tell a small lie for Krishna that will not later on be detected. Okay. So like maybe somebody, and you say, well, these books are all about bhakti yoga, this and that. And the guy says, yogurt, I love yogurt. And you tell him, well, this is all about bhakti yogurt. You're going to love this book, Bob, And so the guy takes the book and he goes and buys it, and stuff, and he says, it's not about yogurt, But then he reads it or something and actually comes back and he becomes benefited, Now he may come back and say to you, hey, you sold me this book about yoga or something, and I wanted a book about yogurt. You can say, well, my goodness, I just didn't understand you. I'm sorry, So, okay, a small lie like that, probably saying that's okay. If we see clearly what the purpose is, what the benefit for the purpose is, then we have enough intelligence. But until we become big acharyas, then we should, watch out for the big ones like, casting entire worlds into chaos and robbing nations and that kind of stuff. And yeah, so that's it. The small lies and that kind of stuff in Krishna's service, we can do that. But the bigger ones, we should start to wonder about. And I know devotees. When the Mother's Party was going on, our Sankirtan leader, who later was gunned down by his criminal enemies and being chased by the FBI, everything else, he was a bank robber and stuff before he became a devotee, and then he became the Sankirtan leader. And of course, he had such a motivational gang spirit. Yeah, let's go, this and that and stuff, you know. And they were doing this stuff, but it got out of hand. And it got to the point where he was like, you know, eternally married to 5 of the girls in the mother's party or something like this and that. And he was justifying the whole thing in terms of, I'm an advanced devotee, I know how to, you know, adjust this in terms of Krishna, the service like that. So that's the point. You got to be very careful. And generally Prabhupada says, small lie that won't be detected for Krishna's service. And always we do this in the association of other saint devotees in Prabhupada's books, you know, and then we should be pretty safe. You know.
Thank you. I'm sorry I was muted. I want to say thank you. Very nice.
Okay, thank you.
I agree. You know, sometimes it may be applicable, but generally not.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't want to hear about news from Hawaii, how, you know, Narahari Das was arrested for something.
No, thank you.
His 4th bank robbery, he was caught. You know. All the rest of the money went to the DBT.
Maharaj, this list of all these great persons, the workers of distinction, well, the conclusion is that unless they're dedicating such activities to the Lord, they cannot have any further results. Somebody may ask, well, what about the prominent atheists, you know, like Carl Sagan, Stephen Hawking? How in the world are they? How are they getting further results when they're such demons?
No, it says there can be no fruitful results. I mean, there can be fruits. You know, Prabhupada talks about that there can be temporary results. You know, that's one thing. Again, my Maya is like, you know, archaeology and that kind of stuff. So recently I was in the Chaco Valley. I had these sandals someone bought from me called Chacos. Okay, you know. Then I discovered this thing. There's this thing called the Chaco Valley, and there's a place in the Southwest United States with the Pueblo Indians, the Navajos, Hopis, and it was a very sophisticated, you know, architectural structure. And then they started getting into, of course, into the investigation. They discovered it was aligned to the sun, it was aligned to the moon, and the other ones around it, maybe like 5 miles away, were also perfectly aligned, and this and that. There's so many things, and they discovered like about that it apparently was a part of a very big ritual tradition. You know? The other side, there was a Hittite civilization which existed at the same time as Troy, and it was so big that actually they chased the Egyptians back into Egypt, you know, on and on. But it was completely forgotten. You know? And it goes on and on like this. Somebody was digging a well, and he just went through this hole, and it came out into this tunnel, and they discovered like an underground city of something like about, maybe like, you know, 5 and 15 miles of something big, you know, of like tunnels and big, you know, security doors, and the whole thing had been abandoned, and there was nothing like dead bones or anything there. It just had been very systematically just abandoned. And then why did it even exist? You know, underground city. So all these things, you know, they had their fruits, but then they're gone. Who were they? What were they doing? They had some fantastic, you know, abilities and everything else, and even some kind of religious and, you know, religious activities. But now they're just gone. You know. So that's the point. Is there may be some temporary fruits like this and that, but within some time they're just gone. You know. Whereas if we dovetail with Krishna, then we become, you know, the stories we're reading in the Bhagavatam are like from previous Kali Yugas, from previous ages, you know, and stuff like that. You know, thousands and millions of years, you know, more than that, you know, eternal. You know.
Okay.
Regarding fruits, sometimes there can be discussion of fruits that one can obtain through material fruits, and as you say, they're limited and temporary, and they have some level of enjoyment. But then there's also forbidden fruit, which one should never aspire for, even materially. And it's often said that the forbidden fruits, they spoil very rapidly.
Yeah.
Just like
My
coming into a
goodness.
man's wife or something like that. You know, I mean, you make a plan and get the fruit of this, illicit affair, and there may be some fruit, but that spoils very, very quickly. So even on the material sphere, they talk about fruit, which we recognize material and limited, but there's also forbidden fruit, which should definitely be avoided.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It seems like, the whole world is designed to get us out of ignorance into passion. And so then to become someone like, if someone comes back and said, I fought with Caesar, I fought with Alexander, then people go, wow, it's really incredible. You were there, I was there, so forth, so on. So in the mode of passion, and then passion, of course, the idea is to go to mode of goodness, and the mode of goodness, then one can start to develop, transcendent values. So there's, if people won't do anything else, then Krishna will, give them some glorification. People say that. It's just like Napoleon. They talk about him and they say, that he was a terrible guy in many ways, but at the same time too, he did have good qualities. And so, something about him was good, and let's extract that and go the right direction, and we'll go to the mode of goodness. One thing here is, if you look ahead here, I did this in a couple of minutes, the big picture, okay, that these, the first canto, of course, there's all this discussion about, why the Bhagavatam was written, what its purpose is, and everything else. And the final conclusion is, the main thing is Sukadeva Goswami, talking to Maharaj Parikshit, like that, And so, we finished off Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit talking, and Sukadeva Goswami basically explained everything in 3 chapters, first 3 chapters. Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, Sat Chit Ananda, pantheism, mysticism, monotheism. So everything is there, and he says, you have any more questions? And Maharaj Parikshit says, well, hey, I'm not going to go anywhere and everything else, I'm definitely becoming purified, so please go on. And so in this chapter, he asked this question, O learned Brahmana, you know everything because you are without material contamination. Therefore, whatever you have spoken to me appears perfectly right. Your speeches are gradually destroying the darkness of my ignorance, for you are narrating topics of the Lord. I beg to know from you how the personality of Godhead, by his personal energies, creates these phenomenal universes as they are, which are inconceivable even to the great demigods. Kindly describe how the Supreme Lord, who is all-powerful, engages his different energies and different expansions in maintaining and again winding up the phenomenal world in the sporting spirit of a player. So if at least we can understand this very well, how God is present, how God is always with me, how God is keeping things going, and in the end, how, why, what's God going to do with it? If we got that down, then we're basically just heading the right direction. So Maharaj Parikshit has very good questions. And then Sukadeva Goswami says, when Sukadeva Goswami was thus requested by the king to describe the creative energy of the personality of Godhead, he then systematically remembered the master of the senses, Śrī Kṛṣṇa, and to reply properly, he spoke thus. And this is 2:4:12 through 24, where he answers like that. And these are the verses we're on now. But it's interesting. It says that he systematically remembered the master of the senses. And Prabhupada says Śrī Kṛṣṇa, but probably the word here is Hrishikesh, like that. So again, Prabhupada's putting the conclusion in right from the very beginning. But in general, the Bhagavatam itself goes slowly, taking us from the beginning. Okay, who is the master of the senses? Who is the creator of this universe? One question comes up that now Sukadeva Goswami is kind of like putting Krishna in perspective. He's putting a frame on the painting. He's putting the painting on the wall. He's making sure the wall's the right cover. He's making sure that the furniture in the room actually is situated properly to see the painting. So in these verses 12 to 24, he's really, fixing clearly who he's talking about, how he's going to get the mercy to present these things, and then he actually starts to talk about, what is the Bhagavatam, how Krishna creates everything. So the question is, why didn't he do this in the first chapter? In the first chapter, he doesn't have too much in terms of invocatory prayers. He just goes right away to the process. Meditate upon Krishna and his expansion as a Virat Rup. That's his answer, like that. Hear him chant about that. So that's one question. But anyway, at least now he does take the time to really glorify Krishna and put him in perspective systematically. So what is that system? We have to kind of know this when we start giving a class, or we start talking to somebody, or we're trying to generate our own proper consciousness to do some service, extended service. How do we, describe, remember Krishna, systematically? And there's a process. Let's go ahead here. Sukha. So these are it says, so these are actually the prayers, and we can just kind of look at them quickly here because the Sanskrit is very indicative, very beautiful. Nama parasmai purushaya bhuyase sadudbhavastana nirodha lilaya grita shakti pratyayaya dehinam antar bhavaya vartmane bhuyo namasad vrijinit shetsatam asambhava kaikila sattva murtaye Pumsam puna paramahangsha ashrame vyavastika anam anubragam dashushe. The Radharani Express is passing by here. So you see again and again it has Namo Namaste. Namo Namaste Sri Rishabhaya Sattvatam Vidura Kastayam Muhu Kuyoginam. So very, very beautiful prayers, and again, Namo Namaste, Brahmani Ramyasti Namaha, Yat Kirtanam, Yat Smaranam, Yat Ikshanam, Yat Vandanam, Yat Shravanam, Yat Arhanam, Lokasya Sadyo Vidunoti Kalmasam, Tasmai Subhadra Shravase Namo Namaha. So the beginning he's offering his obeisances, and this verse 2:4-15 is a very important verse. So to memorize for Bhakti Baba. And again, Tasmai Subhadra Shravase Namo Namaha. Tasmai Subhadra Shravase Namo Namaha. I offer my obeisances to him about whom it is very auspicious to hear. So several verses like that. And of course he's describing different qualities about Krishna. So this is a whole systematic study. This requires to go back and look at this and maybe take like a few weeks and analyze how he's looking at Krishna, what qualities he's talking about in Krishna. 2:4-18, of course, is a famous verse. I'll memorize it. Kirata hunandra pulinda polkasa abira shumba yavana kashadayaha yenye cha papa yad apashrayashrayaha sujanti tasmaya prabhavishnave namaha. That even the uncivilized people in the West can all become purified if they take shelter of pure devotees. And then it goes on like that. Bhagavan Vitarko Lingo Bhagavan Prasidati. Now he's no longer offering obeisances, now he's asking for mercy. Prasidatam me Bhagavan Sattvam Pati. Se Mukunda Bhagavan Prasidatam. Se me Rishinam Rishabha Prasiditam. So he goes on asking for the mercy of the Lord. Lang Krishista Bhagavan Bachangsi me. And so finally he says specifically, the mercy I want is for him to decorate my speeches. Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedase Papur Jnanam Ayam Somyam Yan Mukum Amburu Harsham. I offer my obeisances unto Srila Vyasadeva, come back here, who compiled the Vedic literatures. The pure devotees drink up the nectarine transcendental knowledge dropping from the lotus-like mouth of the Lord. And the chapter finishes, my dear king Brahma, the firstborn, being questioned by Narada, exactly apprised him on this subject as it had been directly spoken by the Lord to his own son, who was impregnated with Vedic knowledge from his birth. So you can see, it seems that these verses and everything else, they're meant to be chanted, they're meant to be taken into our heart, our intelligence, emotionally. Maybe we are all pygmy, midget intellects, our own little ant-like consciousness. If we can actually maybe even take this one series of prayers into our heart and our intelligence in one lifetime, we may be doing good. Whereas great personalities like Bhaktisiddhanta may have great palatial, intellects, and this may form one little beautiful door into a bigger room, of the intellectual, bhava, appreciation, perspective of Srimad Bhagavatam, like that. So very, very beautiful prayers, and looking back at them from a distance and analyzing them and chanting them. Of course, this would be wonderful, like a PowerPoint show, chanting the verses, chanting them over in chorus and music, and as he's asking the Lord who is like this, the Lord who is like that, having different images come in, such a wonderful, fantastic, service, that we can do. So that's our kind of appreciation for this verse and the perspective. Again, thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, and we hope everybody has a very, very happy New Year on Sunday. Any final comments, questions, complaints here?
Maharaj, I was just going to say it was really nice that you went over the Bhagavatam like this, where we're at. It really puts us in perspective. Thank you.
Okay. Otherwise we can't see the forest from the trees. Where's the forest? Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Maharaj. Very nice.
All glories to the Prabhupada.
Okay, Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Thank you, Gurudev.